Okay, good morning, everyone. We were getting one person on the Zoom meeting that was having a little bit of trouble getting connected. Welcome to the Board of County Commissioners Special Meeting, April 9th, 2024. To start, if you'd stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, individual. Thank you. Are there any additions to the agenda? Well, the agenda will be approved as it stands. First up, we have Commissioner Business, Board's consideration, discussion, and supporting the Gunnison Outdoor Resources Protection Act draft legislation sponsored by Colorado Senator Bennett. And start that discussion and have a little history from Robbie.
So before you is a draft letter that is addressed to Senator Bennett, Senator Hickenlooper, and Representative Beaufort. As many of you know, then the Delta County Board of Commissioners, under previous District 3 Commissioner Mark Rover, started the initial conversation regarding support for the Gunnison Outdoor Resource Protection Act, additionally the CORE Act. And while there has been numerous conversations over numerous years regarding the proposed legislation, then Commissioner Kuntz took it upon himself to again work with Western Slope Conservation Center, who is in the room today and on the Zoom. They greatly appreciate all the work that has been done regarding the Gunnison Outdoor Resource Protection Act, in addition to working with Hillary and John Whitney, so with Senator Bennett's office, to really get to details that would more formally address issues that have been brought forward for Delta County, as well as thinking long-term as we think about wildlife habitat. We think about flexibility and adaptive management with the Gunnison GMUG plan for the Forest Service, as well as for Colorado Parks and Wildlife. So again, before you, you have a draft map that is withdrawal for the federal lands in the North Fork Valley, as shown by Exhibit A, which is the map from the mineral leasing laws with respect to oil and gas. Does not impact private land, private minerals, or valid existing rights, and would not preclude the maintenance of any work on right-of-way or other infrastructure. In addition to that, per the Gunnison Outdoor Resource Protection Act, or locally known as GORP, yes, removal of the proposed Black Mesa Special Management Area. This again is covered by the GMUG Forest Plan, and would allow for flexibility as well as the special management for wildlife that already exists on Black Mesa, primarily for mule deer and elk. In addition, it allows for the modification of the Lamborn Wilderness Area boundary to allow for the winter wildlife habitat improvement projects that have been planned not only by the Forest Service, but in partnership with Colorado Parks and Wildlife for additional wildlife habitat vegetation treatments to set succession back on pinyon and juniper, again for elk and mule deer. The addition to the proposed GORP legislation of the new section providing that, again, motorized use on the Gunnison River within the Gunnison Gorge Wilderness Area may continue as established before the designation of the wilderness. In addition to the fluid mineral withdrawal, then Delta County understands that the GORP legislation will include a designation of NSO, no surface occupancy, as also depicted in Exhibit A, for the area that is designated as Colorado roadless area. If we look specifically at the CORE Act, then Colorado Outdoor and Recreation and the Greater Thompson Divide, then we also look specifically at the coal mine methane use pilot program, section 305 and 306, there is continued support for this so that we have the regulatory clarity that methane to be leased under a valid existing federal coal lease. Again, the proposed map and letter is the first step in a long and lengthy process that Delta County has embarked upon and will continue to be at the table. We again specifically want to thank Western Slope Conservation Center, want to specifically thank Hillary and John Whitney. And with that, I am open for any questions, or I would assume that Conservation Center or Senator Bennett's staff is also available for any questions that commissioners may have.
Thank you. Anybody in the room would like to address the board on this topic? Okay,
I would just say thank you for all the work that you have done along with the process.
you're welcome. You're welcome.
Echo the sentiment. It's been a pleasure to work with Delta County on this.
So just a couple of things. We've been at this process now for a long time.
At least 2015.
Well, yeah, yeah. So, you know, the original plan was pretty much a blanket wilderness plan for everything in Gunnison County. And sadly, you know, unlike a lot of the lines in the state, the Delta County Gunnison boundary doesn't follow a watershed. So we had a lot of concerns about a blanket wilderness policy on Delta County's watershed. So we were able to work through that and get a lot of that adjusted and fixed, so that way you know, Delta County folks have access to the stuff that they need. There's been incredible amount of negotiations here to try to make this take place. We're also you know, appreciative of the fact that we can hopefully get something taken care of on our jet boat permit there in the Gunnison River. That is an incredible asset in Delta County, not only for the economy of Delta County, but you know, that it's incredibly useful for, you know, search and rescue, for wildlife, you know, research, wildlife fish hatchery work. They haul up a lot of equipment to fix structures that need to be done inside that NCA. They've also hauled up a lot of trees that they've planted to bring back some indigenous trees. So I really hope we can do everything we can to keep that jet boat permit going, because it is an asset to Delta County.
Hillary, I'm gonna call on you and John here in just a minute, but for next steps, but I did want to check with commissioners and others in the room. Do you have any questions on number one on the letter there with the oil and gas withdrawal? Because we worked very hard on this.
I looked at the map and I thought it was pretty concise. I think we were able to protect industry and still, you know, protect some of these spots at the same time. So
I agree.
Because that did take us months and months to get through that. So.
Natasha has her hand.
Okay, do we need to hear from John Whitney first or not?
Up to you.
It's up to you, Chair.
Okay,
Either
Natasha, you have your hand up?
I do, and I wanted to make a public comment if this is the appropriate time. I wasn't sure when you were taking public comment. So I just want to say that Citizens for a Healthy Community generally supports a mineral withdrawal, and we are happy to see that on the Valley floor. However, I do want to raise 2 points. That one, transparency is really important when it comes to discussing a mineral withdrawal and any deals that are associated with public lands, and that community input is really important. The last time a mineral withdrawal was proposed some 10 years ago without community input did not wind up ending well. So I just want to encourage transparency around this. I'm hoping this is the beginning of the process, not the end of the process, and urge you to bring the community into the discussions. Secondly, as this is a legislative opportunity to, excuse me, secure a mineral withdrawal, I think it's really important to recognize that the real risk from oil and gas development in the North Fork Valley is in the high potential development area on Forest Service lands. And that's not considered here. So I'm hoping that there's an opportunity for consideration of expanding that mineral withdrawal. We know from the Bureau of Land Management with their foreseeable reasonable development scenarios that we can expect nearly 1,000 wells in the North Fork area, which would be in our watersheds, the North Fork Valley watersheds, and also the Grand Mesa watersheds if new leasing is allowed in those areas. Also, I just want to mention again, Delta County is warming disproportionately, as well as the GMUG and the Uncompadre field office. So this is an opportunity to consider the climate impacts of new leasing and new oil and gas production and expand that mineral withdrawal to include high developmental potential areas. And then I would like to close by saying that Delta County really has an opportunity to lead here and lead within the footsteps of the Thompson Divide administrative withdrawal and fully extend those protections into Delta County. And we really encourage you to do that. The last thing I just want to mention is on condition number 3 relative to the Paonia Winter Wildlife Habitat Improvement Project. The town of Paonia had expressed concerns around their source water protection in this regarding this project, I believe back in April 2023. So I'm hoping that the town of Paonia was consulted on this, and just wanted to bring that to your attention. And with that, I'll close and open to any questions.
Question, Natasha, where did you get the figure for 1,000 wells?
That is in the resource management plan amendment scoping documents. They amended the reasonable foreseeable development scenarios for the Uncompadre field office. And in there, they estimated actually 958 wells to be exact. I rounded up to 1,000.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else on the computer would like to address the board? Okay. Any other questions or comments?
I had one for Ms. Henry, Mr. Whitney.
You want to come up to the microphone here and
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. I think we are.
And state your name, please.
Sure. My name is Hillary Henry. I am a regional director for Senator Bennett based in Grand Junction, and I cover 6 counties on the western slope, including Delta County. And my colleague John Whitney and I have been working with you all since last fall to start the conversation again that we, as Ravi mentioned, really began in earnest in 2015. So it has been a long process to get here. And I think we really appreciate the willingness of Delta County to talk with us about this legislation and to try to think about the broader regional picture of how this bill that really began in Gunnison County also affects your county, and think about ways that we can include pieces of Delta County that make sense. And so it's been really a pleasure to work with you all and appreciate the ongoing conversation. And Wendell, what was your question? What can I address for you?
What's the status of both the Corp Act and Core Act, and what's next steps for those? That's what I was getting.
Yeah, so I'll start with, they're in different places, so I'll take them one at a time, and I'll start with the Core Act. So the Core Act was introduced this Congress. It has had a hearing and a markup, and it passed out of the Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee on a bipartisan vote. And that includes the methane capture pilot program that we have worked closely with Delta County to develop. We are hopeful that since it has passed out of committee, it could be included in a year-end package for public lands. Typically, how that works is Democratic and Republican bills get bundled together and they get attached to what is sometimes referred to as a moving vehicle. So maybe something like the National Defense Authorization Act. Of course, that remains to be seen. Like, that can change quickly, and particularly given Delta County's support for those provisions, that is something we would work closely to keep you updated on anything that was happening there and to let you know what is going on in the legislative process. And I think that's generally how we work with counties as we work on these big legislative efforts, is to make sure that you understand any changes in both procedurally where the bill is out the process, but also if there are language changes being made or anything like that. I know that is something Delta County has been very clear that you would like to continue to be included on, and that is always our intent. Working with our partners on the ground is to make sure everyone is fully informed about what is happening. And so it is a continued partnership. It does not just end here today. For GORP is at a much earlier stage. This bill originally began in 2012. There is several different stakeholder groups in Gunnison County that we're liking to see enduring protections on the land. They had a long stakeholder process convened by the Gunnison County commissioners that brought together motorized groups and outdoor recreation groups and conservation groups to develop legislation. They brought that to our office in 2019 with a full consensus proposal and asked us to develop legislation. We put out a discussion draft based off of that proposal in 2022. And when we put it out, I think we realized that it was a Gunnison County based bill, but it really mattered to take a broader look at the entire region. And that's when we started having conversations with communities across the Western Slope that were neighbors of Gunnison County about what this bill was and what it would mean for them as well. To Dawn's point about, our county lines are not always big, don't always make the most topographic sense. And so it's important that we think about the broader picture here. We are hopeful that we will wrap up all of these sort of bigger regional discussions. And there's also some partners that were not at the table in that early, closer conversation. And so we're also continuing to talk with them. We're hopeful that we'll have that wrapped up in the next few months. And the next step would be to introduce the bill. Delta County would, of course, see a full copy of the text before that is introduced. And we would include text that is based off of the letter you are providing here today. Once that bill is introduced, it would make its way through Congress. And so like the CORE Act, it would have a hearing, a markup, and then eventually go to the Senate floor for passage.
Well, I appreciate you committing to keep Delta County informed on this. You see these things, you and John do a lot more clearly than we do. And I will say it's been a very professional working relationship with Western Slope Conservation Center, Hannah, and your team, you and John. So appreciate that. And we have disagreed many times along the way.
But I think we found a great place where we can all live with and is meaningful for Delta County and will really improve the GORP Act. And so I think appreciate all of the parties coming together and talking about this and continuing the work really that began in 2015.
And the fugitive methane capture is something that we started working on. Coal mine working groups and the coal mine methane working groups
2012.
2012, wow.
And I think John Whitney, he's been working on this process the entire way through. And so I also just would like to give him an opportunity to cover anything I might have missed in case he has anything to say.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
yeah.
John.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, thank you, Hillary. And I think you covered most of it, but I just want to really reiterate Senator Bennett and our office's thanks for you guys' engagement and thoughtful work on this. As we got that GORP draft ready and brought it out to adjacent counties, we certainly understood you guys had thoughts and concerns and needed to be a part of that process, and just want to thank you for the thoughtful engagement and really appreciate where we've landed on this. I think it's a good middle ground that really respects a lot of the different needs and priorities in your community. And we think we've landed in a good place. And I think this letter that you've got before you today sums it up very well, addresses many of those concerns, and strikes the right balance there for different community groups and interests in your county. And we're excited to get this letter and this proposal from you guys. And we can commit that we've talked to the senator and briefed him on this, and he knows where things are at, and we can commit that those changes that you're making or that you were requesting to the GORP app, that he is happy to make those changes to the bill and move that forward with the version that will be introduced here in the Senate in the next couple months. And then I guess the only other thing I just wanted to again reiterate is, as the bill moves forward, we will of course work very closely with you on any changes, and that is a part of the legislative process, that people might testify in the bill and make suggestions for changes. Oftentimes the federal agencies will do that as part of the legislative process, but the way our office works is we always circle back with the folks that we worked with to put the legislation together. So to cite one recent instance on the Dolores NCA bill, when that bill went through its hearing, there were some suggestions for minor changes from the federal agencies and others, and we sat down with the 3 counties involved there and ran every one of those changes by them, and we only signed off on those changes after we'd received that input from the county commissions there. And so I think we're happy to make the same commitment here, that as we move forward to finalize this legislative language and to move it forward in the U.S. Senate, that we will certainly work with you guys as a close partner every step of the way, and really appreciate again all you guys have done. And on the topic of methane capture, I think that was kind of the first big legislation that we worked on to find a good middle ground, and it did similar work to really find something there that really works to address a lot of concerns, how we can prevent this methane from being wasted and going up into the atmosphere, and also hopefully provide some jobs for folks to actually be able to harvest that vented methane into a useful product, electricity or something along those lines. So just want to stress how great it's always been to work with your county and engage with you guys, and come together to find thoughtful, productive solutions to these many issues on public land management. And also just thanks for the Conservation Center for their engagement representing the community on this process as well, and really excited about where we've landed and look forward to the next steps.
And I want to thank you guys for the collaboration on this. The reason this thing blew up the last time is because groups were unwilling to compromise. And we have a lot of diverse opinions, a lot of diverse uses of our public land here. And that's what makes this work, is the fact that we're willing to work together and reach a compromise, and something that works for everybody, instead of just a hard line in the sand that we're unable to work with. So thank you very much for that.
The same to the Conservation Center and to Delta County. I think it's been a really great conversation, respectful process where we've really heard each other out, and I think that's so important, and really appreciate all of the great work that's been done on this.
Thank you, Robbie.
Yes, thank you, Robbie.
Team effort.
Anybody else on the computer? Nothing there? Okay. Again, thanks for everybody involved. A lot of hard work, a lot of, like I say, diverse opinions. Thank you for working together.
So I'll make the motion that we approve a this letter that goes to Senators Bennett, Hickenlooper, and Representative Boebert regarding the GORP and CORE Act and special lands within Delta County, and authorize the board to sign.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and second on the floor. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye, so done. Thank you. Anything else need to come before the board at this time?
I have none.
Okay, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much.